As a kid, were you ever scared by something that wasn't meant to be scary? Maybe a commercial or a PSA or even a jingle that just hit the wrong way. If so, you're not alone. If you look online, you'll see this is a common experience throughout children in every corner of the world. Japan, of course, is no exception, where they have an abundance of accidental horror broadcast over the airwaves. Tonight, that's exactly what we'll be looking at as we dive into the eerie world of Japanese commercials that traumatized generations. Not because they were necessarily meant to scare kids, but because they just did. I've been digging through the Japanese language internet, from forums to old blog posts to even Yahoo Answers, which, yes, that is still a thing in Japan. All in the name of uncovering ads and PSAs that might not be well known to English-speaking audiences. Some of these are legendary online in Japan, yet rarely discussed elsewhere. From an anti-drug public service announcement that worked a little too well, to a product recall that relied on scare tactics, and old commercials that still have adults scratching their heads on just exactly what they were trying to accomplish. We'll explore the bizarre and unsettling legends surrounding old commercials and PSAs from Japan. What happens when a public service announcement feels more like a horror short? If you remember Just Say No campaigns in the West, you might be familiar with anti-drug PSAs. Well, Japan had their own versions, except much, much darker, if you can believe it. Let's talk about a PSA that left kids literally crying behind couches as they watched a child become an orphan. This is Mother and Child. In Japan, drug use has long been treated as a serious social taboo, far beyond just being illegal. Even today, getting caught with drugs can, and has, completely destroyed someone's career and public image overnight. Believe it or not, this wasn't always the case, as methamphetamines were legally enjoyed in Japan until 1951, when the government began to crack down with anti-drug messaging. Decades later, in the 80s, the government began using a new tactic when they launched intense PSAs that often felt more like horror movies than public health ads. You may be familiar with campaigns in the West, where public health spots often attempt to present children with the dangers of illicit substances in order to scare them. However, Japan opted to go the alternate route of just scaring the hell out of children directly. In 1982, the Japanese government aired a chilling 30-second TV spot now remembered on the internet as Mother and Child, or Kitchen Mother. It opens to a small, dimly lit kitchen in which we see a small child hysterically sobbing, which gives us a very clear message on where this story is headed next. Sitting by the child, we see a mother collapsed, face down on the table. There's no indication as to whether she's even alive at this point until we jump cut to a close-up of her face as she weakly lifts up her head, eyes closed. Without warning, the mother goes for a hypodermic needle, and through a series of well-timed jump cuts, we see her inject an unnamed clear liquid into her arm, track marks fully visible. Throughout this scene, we hear a distinct alarm like the sound of an ambulance siren, growing louder and louder, adding to the building stress of the scene. Once she gets her fix, she fades away into nothing, and darkness surrounds the child. Left alone in the dark, the child begins to wail and scream for his mother, wringing his hands out of pure grief. A surprisingly calm voiceover warns that even a single injection will destroy you and your family. The PSA's goal was to deliver a jarring, emotional warning to adults about the dangers of stimulant addiction. But the effect it had on younger viewers was much more disturbing. Many described ducking behind couches or changing the channels in a panic the second they heard the child's cry come on. Others recalled the ghost mother with a dread that stayed with them far past their childhood. Even now, decades later, the footage still circulates online. Grainy and dated, yeah, but that just adds to the eerie factor.
Sanyo 石油ファンヒーター S221F 型をお持ちのお客様は、至急、お買い求めの販売店またはご覧の山陽電機窓口まで。
It's not too rare for PSAs to lean in a little too hard on the scare tactics and end up in creepy territory. But what if I told you that one of the most feared advertisements was actually a product recall? This wasn't horror in the traditional sense. In fact, this wasn't even fiction. Imagine if David Lynch needed to warn you about a deadly manufacturer's defect, and you'll get a good understanding of our next entry. The Sanyo oil heater recall. Sanyo Electric was a large multinational electronics manufacturer that started in 1950 by making household appliances. Although its ultimate fate was to be absorbed by Panasonic, they had a pretty good run during their time. You may have even seen their products back in the day, even if you didn't live in Japan. Well, it turns out that there was one product that you probably didn't want to have. In 1985, Sanyo Electric became aware of a deadly defect with one of their models of kerosene heaters that could malfunction and leak carbon monoxide. The company took accountability by launching an aggressive emergency recall program. The company purchased airtime on multiple networks to run advertisements urging customers to return the product as soon as possible. The original notice was a fairly inoffensive description of the issue, asking customers to send in the model type in question. You can see the original recall playing in the background now. However, when the company realized that not all of the units were being returned, they were not satisfied. So, what's a company to do in this situation? Well, Sanyo Electric decided that if their customers weren't taking the matter seriously, these product recalls needed to be escalated. They updated the recall notice to appear as a static blue screen with white text describing the risk of fatal incidents and urged owners to call a phone number. While this sounds like a reasonable ad that wouldn't normally be scary, I should mention that Sanyo Electric made the interesting choice to film it in the most terrifying way allowed by the physics of the 1980s. Take a look and see what I mean.
山陽電機からのお詫びとお知らせです。59年発売の山陽石油ファンヒーター CFH-S221 型によって一酸化炭素中毒事故を起こし、誠に申し訳なく深くお詫び申し上げます。全力を挙げて全品回収、交換を実施してまいりましたところ、今なお 4.5% のお客様のお名前が判明いたしておりません。このままお使いになりますと、人命に及ぶ重大事故を引き起こす恐れがございます。2個州の山陽石油ファンヒーター S221F 型をお持ちのお客様は、至急、お買い求めの販売店またはご覧の山陽電機窓口までご連絡をいただきますよう、お願い申し上げます。詳しくは、本日新聞朝刊のお願い広告をご覧ください。ご迷惑をおかけいたしますが、全品回収に向けて、皆様のご協力を賜りますよう、重ねてお願い申し上げます。
It's clear to understand why such a straightforward announcement terrified so many children. The sterile design of the ad spot, the lack of music, and the demonic speak and spell voice. All of this laid over a series of static images was a recipe for giving children a sense of dread. For youngsters used to colorful toy ads, an unadorned blue screen accompanied by a stern voice felt like a punishment or warning from an authority figure. and we can only imagine what a child might have felt if they actually realized their family owned the deadly heater in question that was planning to destroy their family from within. The recall spot became a sort of urban legend among Japanese millennials. One user singled out the Sanyo recall commercial for its upsetting tone and confessed that if it aired on a Sunday morning, it would ruin their entire day. Another commenter explained on a Yahoo Answers thread, "Those recall commercials for the kerosene heater, or whatever it was, still give me chills even now. I wonder why that is." One user even said that the commercial left such a mark on them, they could still quote the entire thing down to the model number to this day. Although this commercial didn't show scary imagery, it clearly left its mark, as it's one of the most consistently cited commercials in threads where users discuss scary commercials. Well, except for our next entry, an advertisement known so widely for its terrifying impact that it's infamous even outside of the Japanese-speaking internet. For a product designed to be as soft as possible, this next entry was so discomforting that even today people swear it carries a curse. A big-budget art house tissue commercial that repeatedly assures you everything is fine as if everything wasn't. The Japanese commercial that made such an impact on the collective psyche that you may have already heard about it. This is the cursed Kleenex commercial. In 1986, Kleenex released a set of commercials in Japan that, on paper, were gentle, artistic advertisements. A woman who was actually a famous actress named Keiko Matsuzaka sits in the middle of a nondescript field, wearing a white dress sitting beside a small child. The child is painted red and given a green wig to resemble an oni, or Japanese demon ogre. The British song, "It's a Fine Day," sung by Jane Lancaster, plays in both versions of the commercial. In the first commercial, the demon child is playing with the tissues, pulling them up from the box one by one and letting them drift in the wind. One of the tissues blows onto the lower part of the woman's face, but she doesn't seem to mind. In fact, she seems a little hungry during this part, doesn't she? The second commercial is quite similar, with the tone, vibe, and same song playing in the background. This time, the woman and the demon child are sitting in matted straw in addition to the red background. The little ogre baby now has folded his arms and seems to be pouting a bit. Not to worry though, because the woman is going to cheer him up by using the Kleenex. First, she leans in to sing at the child from what I can only describe as not singing distance. Then the commercial cuts back to her releasing a tissue into the wind, similar to what the child had been doing in the first commercial. As you can see, there were many artistic choices here that looked as if they had deeper meaning or symbolism attached. The deep crimson background gave the feeling that this took place in some version of the afterlife, or even hell. Having a woman play a character next to such a small child gave this subtle impression of familial relation. It was also notable that the child was a mythical creature and the woman was clad in white, as if one or both of them had passed on to the next world. This commercial really let your brain fill in the context here, and most people felt sinister undertones. And that's not even mentioning the music. The soft a cappella singing, while beautiful, felt like something a spirit would sing in an empty field at night to lure victims into its trap. Speaking of which, the lyrics constantly repeating how everything is fine has the opposite effect as you raise your guard, wondering why someone is trying to convince you that everything is fine and there's nothing wrong here. As you can imagine, these advertisements too received complaints and were eventually pulled. Viewers found the combination of the surreal elements just slightly unsettling, and later on, the internet would agree. Online, it became the subject of urban legends claiming that everyone involved met a grisly fate. This is despite articles written debunking the rumors, explaining that the actor and crew are alive and the so-called curse theory really just gained momentum years after the commercial aired. Japanese commenters frequently cite this commercial as a childhood trauma. In a Yahoo Answers Q&A thread about scary advertisements, one commenter mentions that the Demon Kleenex commercial felt like it didn't belong in our world. In the comments section in an article on Karapaya, a Japanese website about the mysterious, a commenter said that the commercial was terrifying for them as a child. In fact, this one is so infamous that you may have heard about it already. The Demon Kleenex commercial is commonly discussed on the English internet, where many people echo the sentiment that the commercial feels like a Kleenex curse. Some even interpret the word day as really being the word die, for example with an Australian accent, just being chanted at the viewer. With the benefit of hindsight, modern audiences can recognize it as a creative attempt at art house advertising, which, in a sense, worked because we still talk about it to this day. However, those who watched it as children remember the discomfort of seeing something so ambiguous in the middle of regular programming. And the internet seems to agree that this commercial managed to perfectly toe the line between eerie and intriguing. This next entry might make you question whether or not advertisers are intentionally scaring children in Japan. As you can tell from previous entries, Japan doesn't exactly pull its punches in their PSAs, so you may not be surprised by this next entry, which is actually a set of PSAs on the same topic. In the previous entry, I mentioned a commenter on the Karapaya article on scary commercials that made me take note. In the first part of their comment, they mentioned that the Demon Kleenex commercial was terrifying for them as a child, which I mentioned in the last entry. But the post goes on to mention that AC seems to only produce trauma. Another comment says, "I honestly have no idea what AC was even trying to do." Or this one that says, "AC ads just stir up anxiety for no reason, straight up threatening." Now, AC wasn't on my original list to cover here, so I was curious as to what I missed and looked into it. As it turns out, these users were referring to AC Japan, which stands for Ad Council Japan. You may know them from previous bangers such as Kitchen Mother. Yep, that's right, these are the masterminds responsible for that blood curse masquerading as a public service announcement. The comments I mentioned strongly implied the existence of other such ads, and oh boy do I have something special to share with you. For the first commercial, let's take a blind watch without context and then we can revisit it together. Okay, are you sufficiently traumatized? Let's discuss it. This fever dream of a PSA was meant to warn consumers about the dangers of global warming. But you'd never be able to tell from the video itself. There's something about the static imagery that gives the impression of a haunted tape, which isn't exactly helped by the aging of the footage itself. In the background are these ethereal, haunting bells which add an extra uncanny layer to the already surreal experience. But the real reason you'll never convince me that this wasn't intentional horror is the timing of it all, having nothing occur for the majority of the video, just for the man to suddenly erode and collapse, is tried and true horror cinematography. And to top it all off is the tonal whiplash of the cheery AC Japan card at the end of the commercial, as if they're proud of the jump scare that they just unleashed upon the world. AC Japan did another global warming PSA which I found equally disturbing.
や伝染病、食糧危機を引き起こすと言われている。このままじゃ人が未来が枯れてゆく。ストップ温暖化。
Right out of the gate, I have some notes on this one. It's clear that the start of the commercial is meant to represent peace and harmony with nature, but it feels off. It could be the emotionless, expressionless man and dog, or it could be the bright synths playing the choir Oz in the background. But whatever it is, the video itself is just uncomfortable to look at. As soon as you can acclimate to the strange situation before you, something bad happens. The sun comes out, causing the sound of the choir to begin a slow descent into madness, getting lower in pitch until it starts mixing with a hollow, whooshing sound. We see the leaves first start to blow away to the wind, then we see them wither away and die. A jump cut to the face of the plant man shows the extent of the decay, which feels surprisingly graphic, despite being a man made of leaves. As the camera shifts to a wider angle, we are treated to the desiccated remains of the man and his dog. And to top it all off is that AC Japan logo. Well, thank you, AC Japan. I appreciate that. Have you ever been watching a commercial and wondered how on earth it was supposed to make you interested in their product? Or maybe it even made you want to avoid their product? Well, advertisers found a way to make sure children feared cookies, of all things, with the Moscow Taste of Parnas jingle. Parnas Confectionery, based in the Kansai region of Japan, marketed Russian-style cakes, piroshki, and cream puffs. Beginning in 1958, the company released a series of television commercials built around the catchphrase Moskva no Aji, or the taste of Moscow. According to the Japanese language Wikipedia entry, company founder Matsuo Furukaku came up with a slogan while riding the Siberian Railway and subsequently commissioned unique commercials featuring Russian folk-style music. The resulting song, sung by actor Meiko Nakamura and the choral group Bonnie Jacks, aired for years during anime broadcasts such as Princess Knight and Moomin. Because the commercials were 1 minute long, stations often sold out entire program slots to Parnas, making the song ubiquitous in Kansai households. But just because it's well known doesn't mean it's well liked. One commenter on a creepy commercial thread quoted the jingle and confessed that it felt creepy, so let's take a look and see if they're right.
Parnas が自信を持ってお届けする今話題の激安ケーキ。ご覧ください。高品質でボリュームたっぷり。これがなんと500円というお値段です。お近くのパルナスのお店へどうぞ。
While many adults remember the jingle fondly, some children found the imagery and melody disturbing. The advertisements featured a floating baby's face surrounded by stars, while a male and female voice took turns singing a minor key melody. While this was already a recipe to unsettle young children, this was made worse by the artistic choice to use a series of still black and white images of the baby rather than a video. The desaturated face of the baby, neutral and unblinking, gave a ghostly air about the commercial, making it seem like a sort of ceremonial dirge. This commercial was inflicted onto the larger public for a second time when a popular TV program known as Night Scoop broadcast a segment investigating the eerie song. If you haven't heard of Night Scoop, it's a uniquely fun TV show where viewers can send in letters to the staff asking them to investigate casual mysteries or rumors. For example, one viewer wrote in, "What does my dog do around town all day?" Another, "My husband eats anything I cook him. Is it possible to cook a dish so bad he won't eat it?" Think of it as a viewer participation-based, unscientific Mythbusters. I might want to do a video on it later as it's a legendary TV show, but for now, just know that this TV show signal boosted the Flavor of Moscow commercial's reputation as a haunted song even further to modern audiences. Looking back, the Parnas commercials were effective at branding. Few viewers ever forgot the company name, yet the artistic choices unintentionally spooked a generation. The combination of creepy imagery of children, vaguely foreign motifs, and solemn music created a sense of dislocation and unknown dread. In the year 2000, Parnas began to stop operations, completely dissolving by 2002. But they still left us with something to remember them by. Today, the jingle is nostalgically celebrated on variety shows, but some still get chills when they hear the opening notes. When two different words sound the same, normally context cues can provide clarity on what you mean. But what if the context makes a generation think a group of proud carpenters are screaming for their lives? Let's close this out on a strange but funny one, the Takasugi Group home builder commercials. From the 1960s until around 2000, the Takasugi Group, a Japanese home building consortium, ran a distinctive local commercial. These commercials showed lumberjacks climbing cedar trees and pruning branches while a male singer chanted the company's name in the style of shigging, or Japanese poem singing. These commercials, featuring lines like "Takasugi, Takasugi," were broadcast widely across the Kansai, Chugoku, and Kyushu regions, and were known for their repetitive melody and the catchphrase, "The company where you buy satisfaction." The ad's traditional and serious tone clashed with the more cheerful jingles of other home builders. The endless repetition of Takasugi created an almost hypnotic effect. Children sometimes mistook the commercial for a warning message. So, you may be asking, why would a home builder's advertisement evoke fear? Or why would this be considered a warning message? Well, to answer that question, let me give you a 30-second Japanese lesson. Takasugi is a relatively common Japanese surname written with the characters for Taka, meaning high or tall, and Sugi, meaning Japanese cedar or Japanese redwood. But there is a second way to interpret this phrase. In Japanese, adding the phrase sugi to an adjective changes the meaning to too much. For example, if you add it to the Japanese word for kawaii, or cute, kawaii sugi means too cute, with a similar nuance to how we mean it in English. However, back to Takasugi. When we combine taka meaning high and sugi meaning too much, now we have the meaning of too high, as in, I'm way too high up and I'm scared to be in this tree. Revisiting the commercial with this knowledge, we see a group of workers climbing up and swinging from trees, but this time, they are crying and moaning that they are too high up and scared. And now all I can do is picture small children watching this commercial and seeing grown adults crying and warning them about the dangers of climbing trees too high. These commercials lacked any context. There were no shots of houses or families, just men in hard hats ascending giant trees and wailing about being too high up. Without any explanation, the ad looked like a scene from a survival film. Adults now view the commercial as a quirky relic of regional marketing, but for those who watched it while half awake during late-night programming, the echoing of Takasugi is hard to forget. So there you have it, a handful of commercials from Japan that accidentally scared the hell out of kids, and even some adults. Some were meant to be serious warnings, others were just plain weird. But they all share one thing: they stuck with people. Long after the products were forgotten or the companies closed down, for better or for worse, the feelings they triggered still linger. And if you've got a commercial that haunted you as a kid, no matter where you're from, I want to hear about it. Drop it in the comments and maybe we can go over them together in the future. If you liked listening to the stories I tell around this little virtual campfire, feel free to throw a like or a sub my way. There's a lot more weirdness from the Japanese internet that I'd love to share with you. Until next time, sleep tight and maybe keep the volume low during commercial breaks.